So good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock, and happy spring. My name is Ruth Micklem, and I'm your service leader for today's service. And fortunately, we do have a guest speaker that I will tell you a little bit about a little later. It is good to see you all here this morning. As members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock, we come together to create a welcoming and inclusive community of diverse individuals seeking spiritual meaning in our lives. We listen deeply to one another, speak our truths with integrity, and honor ideas and beliefs that may differ from our own. We take responsibility for our words and actions, striving always to live with compassion and love for ourselves and for others. We are committed to promoting social justice and serving all members of our wider community. Light our chalice. Around us, light is returning. It rekindles the spirit of life in the skeletons of trees. It brings forth new shoots from the soil. It wakes us from our winter slumber and invites us to see what lies beyond. We light this chalice in the spirit of our earth's awakening and to reaffirm our commitment to the value of our home. And we have some opening words by Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Whether by habit or out of need, whether in body or through cyberspace, you entered this sanctuary. Light shining, sky inside, open space for hearts and minds. There is no separation here of the sacred from the profane. No setting apart from the natural world. For nothing can be more precious than the ordinary beauty of spring or the stirrings of the human spirit. Let us bring then our holy hearts and minds into this place of ritual and song. Let us once more commingle the elements of heaven and earth in this shrine of interconnection. Come, let us worship together. I have a reading now from Braiding Sweetgrass. I don't know if folks have read this book. It's a wonderful, wonderful book by Robin Wall Kimmerer. At the height of summer, when the days are long and bright and the thunderers come to soak the ground, the lessons of reciprocity are written clearly in a Three Sisters garden. Together their stems inscribe what looks to me like a blueprint for the world, a map of balance and harmony. The corn stands 8 feet tall, rippling green ribbons of leaf curl away from the stem in every direction to catch the sun. No leaf sits directly over the next, so that each can gather light without shading the others. The bean twines around the cornstalk, weaving itself between the leaves of corn, never interfering with their work. In the spaces where corn leaves are not, buds appear on the vining bean and expand into outstretched leaves and clusters of fragrant flowers. The bean leaves droop and are held close to the stem of the corn. Spread around the feet of the corn and beans is a carpet of big, broad squash leaves that intercept the light that falls among the pillars of corn. Their layered spacing uses the light, a gift from the sun, efficiently with no waste. The organic symmetry of forms belongs together. The placement of every leaf, the harmony of shapes speaks to their message. Respect one another. Support one another. Bring your gift to the world and receive the gifts of others, and there will be enough for all. Okay, now's the time to talk. So if you read your chalice or your newsletter or connections, you think that you're getting to hear me speak today. And thank you for coming to listen. Fortunately, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my vision for our UUFR Community Garden before I introduce our speaker. I'd just like to tell you a little bit how I came to this effort as a way to address social justice. Over the past few years, and particularly this last year, I've struggled with what my role is in making our really messed up country a better place. For many, many years, I've worked on changing laws, only to see them either not implemented or just turned to mush. I've written to and talked with legislators and lawmakers, both community-based, statewide, and federal lawmakers. I've protested, marched in many marches. I've sent money to causes that I think make a difference. And I've worked to build thriving communities in a variety of ways. All of these activities are important, and I believe they're necessary to continue our democracy. However, we seem to be moving further apart in our corners. Too many folks continue to struggle to survive and take care of their families. And so I've come to embrace the reality that there's a fundamental shift we need to make to have hope for future generations on this planet. And one of those shifts is a commitment to work with others to build strong and thriving relationships, to embrace a way of life that honors Mother Earth and sustains myself and others, and does not destroy but creates, builds strong connections, and utilizes Indigenous practices that are grounded in reciprocity, that honors our ancestors and considers our impact on future generations. One way I would like to do that is by working with our UUFR community and our larger community, our friends and neighbors, and incredible human beings like our guest here today, to build a community garden. And before you have some seeds and pots, and we invite you to please take one home, and you can start your own potted plant. There's a variety of things, and I want to thank Marley for bringing those here and having those here for you. So that's our gift to you. But to tell you a little bit about our bigger project, and I think in my using my imagination and trying to think how we could make a difference here that is sustaining and utilizes all those things that I talked about. Through a partnership with an organization called Just Harvest and the people who are part of that organization, as well as other community organizations, I am proposing a UUFR community garden. It will begin with the support of our friends from Just Harvest and those of you who are inspired to utilize our space to create a gathering place of beauty and sustainability. So that's sort of the big vision. I'm sure folks have lots of questions, and we'll have some time for discussion, and then we can talk out while we're having refreshments, and we'll continue to have this conversation. But right now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Just Harvest and mostly about our guest speaker, our surprise guest speaker today. J. Richardson Grebe. Jay is a Rappahannock native and a director of Just Harvest Virginia. She leads the organization's projects related to food security, community building, integrated wellness, and is currently developing new programs about the importance of cultural development within individual and community health. It has been an honor and a pleasure to get to know Jay, and I'm excited to start working with her and the folks at Just Harvest to create a space that helps us to build a more thriving community. So, Jay, if you would like to come up and share your story.
My byline makes me sound much more impressive than I am, so bear with me. I'm actually terribly awkward, and I have horrible ADHD that this morning is unmedicated. So if I get off the track, just somebody give me a like, hey, bring it back in. I am a Rappahannock native. I am a mom. I am a director of Just Harvest. I am a food security consultant for the Haven. I am a whole bunch of things. First and foremost, I am a granddaughter and a daughter of 2 Rappahannock natives. And I give you that context because that's kind of what we do. We do give context, but because we're trying to seat ourselves in an understanding of where we are in the world and why that matters. And they're here. They're my dragon scouts for the day because I dragged them here today. But those are my children, and I am actually really excited that they're here today because it's an opportunity for them to understand how it all comes together as well. As a native, we have to think 7 generations ahead and 7 generations behind. We can't make decisions for ourselves. We can't make decisions for our children. We have to make decisions for our children's children's children. And we do that because our great-great-grandparents did that for us, and that's what keeps the world moving forward. Because if I make the decision that is right for me, that may not be the right decision for my children, and it certainly will not be the right decision for the children of my children of my children. And this is where it gets a little woo-woo native-y, so bear with me. I'm allowed to say that. We believe that we kind of believe in reincarnation. We do absolutely believe in the idea that there is nothing, no part of you, every molecule of your body remains here and remains in the universe, so it keeps coming back in a new iteration every time you pass and return. And that new iteration every time you pass and return is never freed of the consequences of the actions and decisions you made prior. Now, on a much more localized level, as a Rappahannock, as a Tidewater Algonquin, we believe we actually come back as our great-great-grandchildren. So you're going to be nice to your kids and you're going to be nice to your grandkids, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because if you're a jerk to them, they're going to be a jerk to you. And that is sort of a very oversimplified reduction explanation of like why we move through the world the way we move. We believe it's the right thing to do anyway, even if our molecules were freed to go to some ethereal, beautiful space beyond this. That's still how we would want to move through the world, but it's a very concrete way to explain a really big, floaty concept. So that's kind of the preamble, I guess. But I'm here with you today to talk about community gardens, like the worst name for it in the world. I know that sounds crazy, but it is so much more. We don't build community gardens because of any of the facts that I can tell you. I can tell you factually. You all right? Or you just want to be near me? Sometimes they like me. I can tell you factually that when you put your feet, your bare feet, or your bare hands, this is Stone, this is Elfie, that one's Walker. He's the only one who wants to behave today. He was real bad this morning, though, so I think he's atoning. But I can tell you factually that when you put your bare hands or your bare feet in the soil, the bacteria from the soil creates a boost of serotonin in your brain. I can tell you factually that when you eat whole foods, the amount of cortisol and epinephrine that surges through your body in between meals is significantly lower, which makes you a less likely to be aggressive, violent, or defensive person. All of those things amount to like a clinically, scientifically better world. So I'm like, oh, we could call them little hospital gardens. We could call them little, like, there's so many different things that we can identify and attach to community gardens from a Western science basis. But there's so many of those things, and they are so wide-reaching, and they are such a spider web of things that I'm like, community garden just seems like such an undersell, if that makes sense. So we create community hubs. We create a place of sustenance. We create a place of healing, growing, mourning. It's meant to be a little bit of everything, but it's also meant to be really disarming. The idea of coming to church, especially for people in my generation and beyond, can be a little bit inflammatory because there's so much attached to it at this point in the game. But I've never met anyone who's like, oh, you're going to a community garden. I'll catch you after. I've never met anybody who is just upset by the idea of let's put some tomato plants in the ground. Because it's one of those things. It's the same way this year. I'm about to ramble, so somebody bring me back on track in a second. But on the first 2 to 3 years we were doing this work, we were very direct. We are a food sovereignty organization, which means lots and lots of things, but first and foremost, one of the things this means is a social justice organization. You cannot have food sovereignty without a just world. You cannot have autonomous decision-making over your food, over your diet, over your traditions, unless all things are equitable and equal. So I like the word food sovereignty because it's a big, vague word that most people don't know the definition of. But if you know it, it's like the in-group thing. You're like, oh, you do social justice. Oh, you do wellness. You do, it's all of these things. And it's like the opposite of a dog whistle. Cat whistle? So community garden is a word that to me, I'm like, oh, we need a better word. We need like food sovereignty of a word. But the first few years that we were doing this work, I got to go into spaces and say with my whole chest, we need to level the playing field. We need to create access. We need to create universal accommodations. We need to do all of the things that are going to get everybody to a healthy, happy endpoint. And then in the last few years, that has become a much more difficult prospect because there's so many words that I'm not allowed to say anymore. There's so many words that I'm not allowed to put in a grant report anymore, or it will immediately get flagged and they'll say, oh, no, 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 that's not in alignment. The mission didn't change, but the language did change and the approach did change. So now instead of going into places and talking about how let's right the world and let's hold hands, we talk about a crow that steals the sun from the gods who are hoarding and brings it to the people. And we talk about a beautiful little girl who's like, nope, the people can't hoard the sun either, so we need to share the thing, and then the crow shoots it back up into the sky. On a very superficial level, I'm telling you a children's story, an illustrated children's story, and then we make a craft and we have some food together. But when those little kids walk out, those little kids and their parents walk out of that story time, there's questions, and there's questions that force their parents to kind of reconcile and answer bigger things for themselves with what's going on in the world. And I tell you that little dalliance, I swear it was related in my mind when we started, because I believe that's what a community garden can be. For the people that already know the story, they can come to the community garden and know that when they come to the community garden, they're gonna find a safe person to chat with, or a tree to sit under for a little shade because they need a break, or maybe they just need a few tomatoes because their grocery budget didn't make it this week. For the people that don't know what a community garden really is. It gives them the opportunity to come and connect and have a safe, disarmed conversation. There's no scenario in which we're going to march into somebody's living room and tell them, this is the right way, you're doing it the wrong way, these policies are hurting people, these decisions are harmful, because that's putting people on the offense. And it's not going to do it. Like, we're already on the offense. Everybody's already on the offense every day because the world is terrifying right now. We need a place that we're not on the offense. We need to stop being on the offense. We need to stop putting people on the defense. We need a place where we can have actual conversations, because when we have those actual conversations, we're not as far apart on any of these things.
It helps our emotions. It helps a lot, like family, friends, everything.
So I guess the long story short, and I'll try to start steering toward questions before I get entirely off the bat. We build community gardens on a very superficial level because it produces food that we can share with our community. And food is one of those things that everybody needs. Food is a thing that is the least negotiable of all of our needs. We know we need clothes, we know we need shelter, we know we need hugs, we know we need all of these things, but lots of those things can come in many different forms. Food is always food at its very baseline. You can rewear last season's clothes. You can rewear that dirty sweatshirt 4 days in a row and it will still keep you warm even if you smell a little funny. You can live in your car. Not saying you should, not saying it's good. I'm not saying that's the world that we want. But food is not a negotiable. So if we can start with food and make sure everybody has enough good things to eat, we have made a mark right there. We have made just the tiniest difference right there. So even if we don't change any hearts and minds, we know at least everybody went to bed with a full belly that night. And maybe because somebody went to bed with a full belly that night, they're in a more receptive mood to have the rest of the conversation, to go a little bit deeper, to be open to bigger ideas. So that's kind of my elevator pitch. I just think this is a beautiful opportunity for you guys to not only feed one another, not only feed your community members, not only show that you want to create this little hub, this little safe space for people to come and connect, because that's what a UU church is. UU church is not about you're going to do it my way. A UU church is let's come together under shared values. Let's come together because we're all excited and passionate about doing the right thing, about being right. It's called right relations in Native culture. Right relations, to be right with the world, to be right with the soil, to be right with your friends, to be right with your animals, to be right, to be right. And that's where the UU and the Native sort of braid. We just use different terminology for it. So if we call it a community garden, we call it a community garden. But I do think there is probably some far more extraordinary name that we could call it. And I do recognize, I'm like, oh, well, guys, I am absolutely rambling. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, this is, for many of you, might be the first time you're hearing about a community garden with UUFR. I am definitely trying to engage folks and get you excited about this. I am really excited that Just Harvest is working with us and really helping us to get started. And you correct me if I mess up anything here, Jay, but one thing that Just Harvest has funding from the,
I think
we got to make sure everybody hears you.
I think you need to explain what your vision is for what we talked about we're going to do.
Okay. Well, I'll start, and then I don't always get all the details, but Sharon's here.
Sharon's the detail lady. I love Sharon.
Yeah, and we'll have to do that after the service. But essentially, we met and talked about starting with a small garden out front so that it's very visible to the community. And we're utilizing the space with a lot of sunshine. And it will be 4
by 8.
4 by 8 raised beds. And that's, folks from Just Harvest, and we will have some other folks from the community as well as folks from UUFR will come and put that in. And then we will take care of that. And I think The longer-term vision, I mean, I've certainly been thinking about this for a number of years. We own several pieces of property. I would love to see if this is something that is embraced by the community and by our community, that it can expand into utilizing some of the property that we have to really grow in the community. If not, if it doesn't grow to that degree, we will have a space that can sustain those of us here and our neighbors, and that all the things that Jay and Alfie talked about. So, yeah, is that?
And we are not a top-down organization. We don't create, nope, don't turn off. We don't create plans and then bring them to you. In fact, when I walk into a space most of the time, I have more questions than answers, primarily because I don't want to come and dump something on you that you're like, oh, we wanted a community garden. Okay, here's a community garden. We want to come into this space and say, what do you need? What do you need your community garden to look like? How does your community garden need to be accessible to you? What do you need? What do you want to grow in your community garden? What's reasonable for you to maintain? Because there are some plants that you need to be on top of them every day. We've all heard of hot house orchids. We don't want those.
We're not doing any hot house
want
orchid.
those.
I can't even keep an orchid alive in my house.
But we've also heard of, or I have heard of, gummy berries and autumn olives. And those guys grow no matter what. But they feed you. They do feed you. So if you know how to live right with them, if you know how to vibe with them, if you understand that, like, listen, I love a good garden, but I got like 2 hours a week to devote to me, and probably 90 minutes of that needs to be a nap. So I really got maybe 15 to 30 minutes to give to the garden each week. That's fair and that's reasonable, but let's go in with that expectation. Tell me that. Don't say, hey, we want the biggest garden, and then when I come back in 6 months, I'm like, hey guys, what happened in that garden? Y'all are like, well, it might have been a little more than we could chew. And I'm like, that, but let's lead with that. Let's start there.
First of all, Jay, I want to say I love what you do, and thank you from the bottom of my toes to the top of my pointy ears for what you do. I love it. My sister and her husband actually started a community garden in Portland, Oregon, when they lived there. And there was a parking lot near their house that was fenced in, but the drug dealers like to use it to make their deals. So Vicki took a petition around to all the neighbors and said, let's start a community garden. She got that signed off. She had to take it to the government and get the okay, but they told her that it had a gas station there. So under the pavement were tanks, and they refused to dig that up and take the tanks out. So they said, if you want a garden here, you have to do everything above ground. So they did that. So it was a paved lot. They built these above ground boxes that were at the right height, so they were ADA compliant. People with wheelchairs could roll up and still do their gardening on the side of their wheelchair. And they had a girls group come in that was teaching girls how to do construction skills, and they built the garden shed, and they had the cisterns for water donated, and my sister and her husband are artists, so they designed a really beautiful gate for the front of it. So they turned this place where drug dealers used to come to make their deals into this vibrant community center where all the neighbors who didn't know each other before, now they knew each other, right? And when it came time a couple of years later for Vicki and John to move out of that area, she was able to train up a committee that was going to take it over. So now it still thrives there without them. And it's just such a beautiful gift. It feeds not only your stomach, but your soul. It creates awareness.
You could have been up here doing this for me.
Who your neighbors are, right? And even if they're not on the same side of the aisle as you, at least you're talking with them about something that you have in common, right? And I'm so happy that you're bringing this. I'm just, whatever I can do to help, please.
All right,
That's
signing you
beautiful.
up. I got you signed up.
That is great, Jay. Thank you very much. Now, on the practical side, how about deer and bunnies and all these little friends that we have?
It can be done without a fence. It is easier with a fence.
Or we will have a fence.
We have a budget, and you and I and Ruth and I and everybody who wants to will sit down and have a multitude of meetings to decide where to prioritize that budget. There are, like, the community garden in Essex has lots of friends, no deer. The garden at my grandmother's house has lots of deer because it's in the middle of rural everywhere. So we have lots of different options to deal with our neighborhood friends. And that can be done through, like, Repelzol, which is a really fancy name for spoiled eggs and bad milk. You don't smell it, but the animals do. And it's all organic. You spray it on, and the animals are like, whew, that's nasty, and they don't come into your garden. Or we can do that with fencing, or we can do that. We have a groundhog at the Minokan spot, and we have to put these things in the ground that, like, vibrate. And the groundhogs don't like the vibration, so they have stopped invading the garden. At a later date, we can absolutely plant additional, like, sacrificial crops. It sounds really terrible, but ultimately these creatures are coming into your garden because they're hungry. So we just plant some extra for them.
Yeah, not because they're mean, but...
So there's lots of ways that we can remediate our woodland friends, and Just Harvest in particular does have a universal personhood statement. So we don't use any chemicals, we don't use any violence toward our animal friends. They are people too. We do value them, we just value them not in our garden.
So many of the details we are going to be talking about and planning together.
Ruth, thank you. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at it, that sunny lot out there, and envisioned a garden. And I thought Sharon would kill me if I ever even suggested it. I am so excited. I know, but Sharon, you carry the load for us for so many of these things. This is really thrilling, and I think we all have a lot to learn from you, Jay.
And I gotta give Sharon her shout out. Like, she's been, like, #1.
Oh, Sharon is wonderful. I just didn't want to throw anything else at her that...
Well, this is not a building and grounds project.
No, I understand that. We have...
I've already talked about that, and we made that. I mean, this is something that Ruth is coordinating for UUFR. It's not something that I have any. The only reason I was involved in the first meeting was to talk about the best location, considering the sun, the water accessibility, because we have to be able to get water to it, and we have 2 outdoor faucets. That's it. And so, those are little things that. But I thought it was great. I learned more that day about raised bed gardening than I ever knew. I mean, I was excited about it.
Yeah.
Because
So we
there's
all...
options for us that.
And if we could convince Sharon to continue to sit in on the meetings, that'd be super helpful, because she is the one going, hey, but what about? And I'm like, ooh, yeah, what about that?
Yeah.
But we all need to thank Ruth for getting this started. This is really exciting.
It's definitely, well, thank you, Selene. It's definitely a group effort. It's definitely been a fantasy for a long time. So.
Probably don't need that.
Well, I just want to make sure folks
Okay,
on the
yeah.
Zoom here.
Say, if I have to do it,
How
so
will
you.
this be funded?
You always ask all these detailed questions. I knew y'all. So to start us off, actually, Just Harvest has some funding to get us started. We will most likely start a project board for folks who want to contribute to it as we grow it. And also there are grants, or there's grants available. So we're going to start very small and hopefully not grow at a pace that's more than we can handle. I'm very aware of physical limitations that many of us have, and don't want to take on much more than we can handle, but moving very slowly as we go forward. But there's actually a number of funding sources now to support community gardens. There's also UUA has funds that support projects like this as well. So we'll be looking into things like that if anybody wants to practice their grant writing skills. Yeah, so.
I just want to say one other thing. I think the idea of bringing everything closer to home in the end has more of an impact than everything we've been trying to do, reaching out there to people we do or do not know that do or do not listen to us, and really the ripple effect that we can have in our own backyard, I think is superb, and in the end will make a lot bigger difference, because it does cross the aisle, so to speak. It doesn't matter who's next to you in the garden or in your backyard. The nicer we can be, the more loving and thoughtful we can be, and feeding people is, you know. Anyway, I think that is huge. You know, we've written letters, we've done the marches, we've done all this, and it's still going to heck in a handbasket no matter what. But this, something like this, and just the kindness for no reason at all to our friends and neighbors and total strangers in the Walmart, everybody that we can share a kind word with, share food with, is just monumental, way bigger than the extraneous stuff. Yes.
And speaking for Jeff, who's not here, I know he will enjoy the breaking of bread with strangers. Yeah. It's one of his favorite phrases. We have moved to Waynesboro, and we learned when we moved there that there's an organization already in place called Embrace. And not only do they do food, they do laundry, they have showers, they have textbooks and classes for students who are not performing in their own schools. Amazing.
All right, thank you, buddy. Last comment, and then I'm going to wrap this up. We can talk more out in the fellowship hall.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Ruth for actually making this happen. We've been kicking it around for 10 or 12 years. Why don't we do this? I found out about Just Harvest, my work with the Haven, and realized that it is much more than just a community garden. So I'd like, if you could give us a little bit of some of the other things you do once you get the garden established, and cooking schools and some of those kind of things.
We do a little bit of everything. We are about cultural revitalization and community building. So we go into a community, we don't go into a community, we're typically part of a community. There are 0 places that we've ever gone where we didn't know anybody, because that would be inappropriate. But we go into spaces and we talk with the people in those spaces and we figure out what they need. And many places people are like, oh, we need to know how to make the food that we do have healthier. We are not going to be preparing 4-course meals every evening for our children after school. Sometimes you're the mom who doesn't get home until 10 p.m. and your kids got home off the school bus at 3:30. You don't want your kids to just eat ramen. So we developed a workshop on how to make ramen a healthier option, because I don't expect my 12-year-old or my 10-year-old to come home and create a gourmet anything, but I do want them to be fleshing out. They're actually not too bad at it, but they can flesh it out. They can throw some frozen peas into that ramen pot. They can throw a little bit of shredded cheese in there, and that gets you some protein. It gets you some vitamin something. Sorry, my brain's not in that mode right now. So we've done cooking workshops on how to zhuzh up your pantry staples. We have done cultural development workshops where we come in and we share stories and we do crafts together. And it gives people an opportunity to talk. It gives people an opportunity to reconnect with values that maybe have become less important in our current social iteration. We also do gardening workshops, so you can learn to do it at home at whatever entry level that you're particularly at. Like, we've done these cute little, like, here's a couple of mason jars. I'm going to show you how to put them on a board and hang them in your kitchen so you can grow your own herbs. That's accessible to almost everybody. Not everybody, but almost everybody. But then there's people who are like, actually, I have this cute little patio behind my house. I don't have any grass. It's just a concrete patio. What can I do? And I'm like, got you. We bring the 5-gallon buckets and trellises, and we teach you how to grow tomatoes and cucumbers and climbing things out of your 5-gallon buckets, up your trellises on your patio with the light that you have. We can teach you how to do in your kitchen composting, which is a little tricky, but it can be done. I just can smell that if you miss the mark. So we're kind of one-stop shopping in that we're here to meet you as a community where you are to help you get where you want to be. So if you're an organization that's like, hey, we do actually have excellent chefs in the organization as well who can come in and how to teach you how to make something really like chef's kiss amazing. Their Auntie Ashley did a cooking demonstration at Minokin last October with a vegan chili. And there just happened to be a couple families there from like Texas for some reason. And they're like, this ain't chili if it ain't got no meat. And she's like, all right, cool, try it. And they're like, could I have that recipe? Like we have such an abundance, an amazing abundance of resources that whatever it is that you need, we can probably help create little steps. I don't know, go away. But anyone like a child, one boy for sale. So our aim is to work with you to get you where you need to be, but we do have so many amazing resources that we just love to share because us sharing out helps us as well for a variety of reasons, because that's how reciprocity works. Does that answer the question, or did I get it totally off track?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can, you know, if folks have questions, Jay will be here to hang out with us and hopefully get some conversation generated and really start thinking about this. And I also encourage you can check out justharvestva.org, their website, and see a little bit about what they do. Thank you so much, Jay, for sharing that.